Welcome into Candlestick Chronicles, a 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Madson. I write about the 49ers over at NinersWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. And as always, alongside me, I forgot I didn't do the thing anymore. It's really annoying. I can't see his body, but he's here with me. He's a floating head, Chris Biderman, because you're wearing a camouflage jacket. So I can't
hoodie.
see you. A camouflage hoodie, whatever. I don't know.
Right,
anyway,
that's fair.
I'm trying to do jokes.
Just blending in.
Sponsors. Let's talk sponsors. Lamb Chops. We love Lamb Chops. I'm wearing the ash gray Lamb Chops hoodie. This is my go-to hoodie. If I'm sitting around the house, if I'm getting ready for work in the morning, if I've got to run outside, if I've got to go run errands, it's my Lamb Chops hoodie. My other one's in the wash. But as soon as that one comes out, that's going to be in the rotation as well.
Super comfortable, super warm. It's kind of that perfect fit. The modern fit these days is a little looser. Baggy clothes are kind of in. And I would highly suggest that ash gray hoodie because I've had one. I've traversed great distances in it and could not recommend it enough. So check out what they got over at sglambchops.com.
Yeah, you can also follow them on Instagram at SGLambChops. Use the promo code Candlestick20. You get 20% off your order. That's right. You get a sick-ass hoodie, and you get it for 20% off. Can't think of a better deal than that. It's a pretty great deal at SGLambChops.com. Join the herd today. We're also sponsored by Cooperage Brewing. We love our friends at Cooperage. We love Cooperage beer. We love their Pilsners. We love their hazy IPAs. We love their IPAs. We love their pale ales. We love their oatmeal stouts, their seltzers. We're into all of it, but we're especially into the Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA, which is now just available all the time. And that's super cool. And that's why we love Cooperage.
Yeah, it's great. All the beer is great. I put it up against anything. I say it every time we talk about it. Yeah. It's as good as anything you can get from the Sonoma County area. And there are some really big names in Sonoma County. If you know, you know. And honestly, everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people who work at some of these other establishments, they go to Cooperage after work to enjoy some beer. I mean, you can make a strong case that Cooperage Brewing is your favorite brewer's favorite brew.
Yeah, that's the tagline we've made up for them.
So shout out to Cooperage. Shout out to Cooperage. Vibes are great. Excellent brewery. Excellent place to be.
Yep.
Excellent hang. And to be able to get their beer in stores around the Bay Area, particularly in the North Bay, or through the mail if you're 21 and a resident of California. It's just it's a great thing to get, particularly these winter months. Maybe the weather's a little tough. You got some rain, you got some wind, maybe some snow depending on where you are. Get that beer delivered. Don't risk the elements. Have that's why we pay UPS and the USPS and whoever else to deliver stuff for. Totally. So take advantage.
CoopersBrewing.com is where you can get your beer today. Also want to shout out Prize Picks. They've been rocking with us all year, and we've had a ton of fun with it. We were late to starting this live podcast because we were messing around on Prize Picks on the website and the app and making our selections for today. We'll dive into those selections a little bit later, but just wanted to shout out Prize Picks. You can go to prizepicks.com/candlestick and use promo code Candlestick for your first deposit match up to $100. It is the easiest daily fantasy sports you will play. Pick 2 to 6 player stat projections. You pick more or less on those projections, and then you watch the winnings pile up because that's how it goes. It is my new favorite way to watch sports, and I think you'll enjoy it very much as well. So shout out to our friends at Prize Picks.
All right, shout out to Prize Picks. Just quick spoiler alert before we get to them. It is officially Demon season.
Demon season. Chris is on Demon time. Let's talk Niners Rams. All right, so here's a little before we get into what amounts to a preseason game in Week 18. We have real stuff to talk about with this. We're not just gonna say this game is gonna stink. There's some stuff to watch, and we'll tell you what it is here in a second. But since we've started this podcast, I think every time, maybe all but one time the 49ers have played the Rams, I've hit up Jordan Rodriguez from The Athletic. She covers the Rams. She does a really great job. She's done a podcast about the Kyle Shanahan play calling trees. She does really good work. and she's fun to talk football with. But before I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother for this game. I'm not going to reach out. I'm not going to waste her time. And that's
Hey,
kind of how I feel about this game.
it was going to be, hey Jordan with Ernest Jones sitting out. What's the Rams linebacking core going to look like on Sunday, and how
Yeah.
are those guys at run fits?
Yeah. Right.
And do they bite on play action in a way
Yeah.
that maybe Kyle Shanahan would? So unfortunately, we're not going to have those answers for you. But maybe
Yeah.
if the Niners and Rams match up in the playoffs, Jordan will grace us with her presence so we can get to brass tacks.
Right. And that's kind of the gist of, I tell the story about Jordan to say that this game is awkward. I mean, it is. Well, okay, so the Rams are, we talked about it in the last podcast. The Rams are sitting a bunch of guys, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald and Ernest Jones, of course, as you mentioned. So they're sitting all those guys, and it sounds like Puka Nacua, who needs 4 catches and 29 yards to break the rookie receiving yards record and the rookie receptions record, is going to get those records and then get out of the game. So,
Sure.
like Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams isn't going to play. Well, the 49ers, they have 7 players who missed practice Thursday because of injury. I'm sorry, 6 players who missed practice Thursday because of injury. And we already know Brock Purdy's not going to play. So that makes 7 players who are already out. They can bring up 2 from the practice squad. So they have basically 1 additional spot that they can sit a player. And I would be shocked if that second spot alongside Brock Purdy among the healthy scratches, the quote unquote resting players for Sunday, is anyone other than Trent Williams. I would be floored if it's so unless there's an unknown injury that crops up. I think Trent Williams and Brock Purdy are both gonna sit out on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree. The Niners did get a little bit of good news this week in the form of, guys like Juwan Jennings and Jalen Moore progressing enough through the concussion protocol that they could practice on Wednesday as limited participants. And it sounds like Jalen Moore is through the protocol because on Thursday he wasn't even listed on the injury report. So that would indicate that Jalen Moore is probably going to play left tackle, protecting Sam Darnold's blind side. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, and it's kind of tough because, you would love to just sit Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw and Nick Bosa. And, you have some other guys at those positions, but you only have 5 linebackers up on game day. And so you can't, if you just sit Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, then you have your 3 backups. And if any of those guys get hurt, Warren Burks has been dealing with injuries throughout the year. You'd have Demetrius Flanagan fouls, Jalen Graham, D. Winters. Then you're throwing Greenlaw and Warner back into the mix. So there's a decent chance that, like, you might be looking at Sunday with like Fred Warner playing a half and Dre Greenlaw playing a half, and Greenlaw's been banged up too.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what this is going to look like is some of these starters you'd be like, man, why is that guy playing? Well, it's kind of out of necessity.
Yeah.
Because like you pointed out, given the 49ers injury situation, and they have 7 guys that aren't expected to play already, it's not going to be a scenario where they can just rest everybody like they would in the preseason when the roster's at 90 players.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it is an awkward game because really all you want to do is to just not have any injuries, but you do have to play an actual football game.
So with that said, I'll go through the players who look like they're going to sit out here in a second. But with that said, I also don't think we're going to see when Deebo Samuel is on the field or Brandon Ayuk or George Kittle or whoever it is, I don't think we're going to see heavy volume for those guys.
Not going to be like a ton of Deebo Samuel crossing routes.
It wouldn't. It legitimately wouldn't shock me if once Puka Nacua gets his yards, if a lot of the Rams offense is just, hey, let Carson Wentz run around and do stuff and just kind of get acclimated to the offense in case he needs to play in the postseason. And I think we probably see a lot of the same with Sam Darnold, but throwing to like Ray McLoud. And if Juwan Jennings is through the concussion protocol, a lot of Juwan Jennings, hey, a lot of Ronnie Bell, get him some burn. and doing that. And then at some point it just turns into 3 runs and punt.
But what you're probably not going to see too is Danny Gray, right?
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if Danny Gray is on the roster.
For Danny Gray to get elevated off IR, they would have to get rid of somebody else.
Yeah, and with their injury situation, I just don't think they're gonna release somebody to add Danny Gray. Like they need everybody. They literally need every body they can possibly get. And unless the plan is to sit Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk, then maybe they add Danny Gray and release. I don't even know where they could afford to release somebody, but right. Here's who's sitting out for sure. Eric Armstead's out. Christian McCaffrey is out with a calf injury. Eric Armstead has the foot and knee injuries. It sounds like Jair Brown's going to miss the game. He's dealing with a knee injury. Ross Dwelly's still working through a high ankle sprain. Looks like he's going to miss the game. Tayshaun Gibson has a quad strain. Shanahan said on Wednesday, he said that's a 7 to 10 day injury, but it could be faster. I'd be pretty surprised given that Gibson hasn't practiced Wednesday or Thursday. I'd be pretty surprised if he goes. So we're going to say Tayshaun Gibson's out. And then Ambry Thomas had surgery on his hand. Based on what Shanahan said, it sounds like he would play if this was like a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew going into last week he would need the surgery. So it's not anything major, but he's going to miss the game on Sunday. So yeah, that's 7 players who are all in line to miss the game. So that's where that's at.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to talk about. Like, I don't really know.
So here's what I'm watching for.
Okay.
I want to see first of all, just the injury situation, like keeping players healthy. But B, I'm really interested to see what Sam Darnold looks like over a full game. And maybe it's not what it would be with the starters, but does he avoid just the disaster throw? I know he had the interception against the Ravens. It does, 4th and goal from the 28 or whatever it was. That was just a heave to the end zone. I'm not super worried about that. But can he avoid the disaster interceptions and the errant throws and just kind of the sporadic play that plagued him through most of his career to this point and is why he's signing a 1-year cheap deal as a backup? So I think Sam Darnold, frankly, stands to make a lot of money if he plays well. And it gives the 49ers some peace of mind that if they run into quarterback issues in the playoffs, they have a capable backup if something happens to Brock Purdy and he's not available. So I'm definitely watching to see what Sam Darnold looks like. Again, and not expecting that he's going to go throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, but can he run the offense? Can he make the right reads? Can he make good throws? Maybe they're not all caught. Maybe, there's a wrong route here and there. I don't know. But I'm fascinated to see what a full game of Sam Darnold looks like. So that's something I'm legitimately curious to watch.
I don't know that I get what you're saying. I just don't know that what he does in this game, given how meaningless it is really going to be like a team that signs Sam Darnold to a multi-year contract and pays him $8 million a year is doing it because they already have priors on Sam Darnold. Like they already like him.
Okay. Let me rephrase then.
Okay. In my opinion.
If Sam Darnold goes out and sucks in this game and throws 4 interceptions,
sure.
I think it dramatically impacts his free agency.
Fair. Yeah. He can do, I agree with that he can definitely do more harm than good. It's not going to be, Sam Darnold tossed 3 tutties against the Rams in week 18.
I know Ernest Jones wasn't out there, but
here's 45 millis. Let's make this happen.
There's another storyline I just thought. Ahkello Witherspoon revenge game.
Sacramento's finest. Shout out Christian Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold, it'll be interesting. Like, is there going to be any carryover, right? Because we always seem to, the collective not you and I necessarily, but there's always this, like in the preseason, we are all very prone to overreact to what we see in a preseason game. And this is more or less a preseason game. So I think the point I would make with saying that is that, like, if Sam Darnold were to come out and play really well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I would feel awesome about him being inserted into a playoff game because of it, right? Like, Brock Purdy has another stinger flare up, has to miss a drive or two because he's getting evaluated in the tent and letting his shoulder cool down. I don't know that I'm like, yeah, Sam Darnold was awesome against the Rams. This is going to be perfect.
No,
There's
no
not going to be
doubt.
any drop off.
No doubt. I think there would definitely be a little bit of drop off, but again, you'll know when you're watching.
Yeah.
If he just looks really good against the Rams, and you're going, okay, at least it wasn't a disaster. But again, I go back to if he sucks, if he just goes out there and he's cheeks, then you because right now I'd be if Sam Darnold entered a playoff game for the Niners, it's kind of like, all right, here you go. All right, we'll see what it looks like. If he goes out and stinks in this game, then you're going, can Brandon Allen play? Is that an option? If he goes and lights it up, then you feel a little bit better. I'm not saying that he's going to prove that he's better than Brock Purdy or anything. It's not that dramatic. But a full game of Sam Darnold, if he goes and looks as good or better as he's ever looked in the NFL, that's more of a positive than what we have right now, for me anyway.
Sure. I think, and I'm not basing this off much, and obviously that this game hasn't happened yet. I would think there's a pretty good chance that Sam Darnold just comes back on like a very similar contract. Because
maybe
there's still, like, Brock Purdy. I'm not saying Brock Purdy is injury prone, but there's certainly, like, if you're a backup quarterback looking for an opportunity in an ideal scenario, the 49ers still represent that. And maybe Sam Darnold can get 6 or 7 million instead of 3 or 4 from another team. But in terms of an opportunity to eventually get another big payday, which if I were Sam Darnold's agent, I would say, look, yeah, maybe you can get $1 million or 2 here or there from another team. But maybe that other team has a first-year head coach, or you would be a bridge quarterback for a rebuilding team, and you'd be thrown to the wolves behind a bad offensive line and with crummy receivers. Yeah, maybe you make a little bit more money in that scenario, but ultimately in 2-3 years from now, maybe that hampers his ability to get another big bite at the apple, right?
Sure.
So I think there's, no matter what happens on Sunday, and to your point, like, he can do more harm than good. But no matter what happens Sunday, I would think that there's a pretty good chance that Darnold just comes back, because he's like, look, like, I can be a backup here and potentially get an opportunity to play if Brock Purdy were to get hurt, and play with, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams is my left tackle, right? Like,
sure.
So I don't know that it's necessarily a referendum, but the funniest possible outcome is if Sam Darnold does decide to leave, and then Mac Jones is the Niners backup quarterback next year.
Stop. Oh my God.
Right? I mean, that's, we can't rule that out, right? Like, if Mac Jones is on the open market, Kyle Shanahan is picking up the phone. Even if it's like, hey, you're going to be our Nate Sudfeld, like, maybe, like, Mac Jones. I'm not saying the Niners would say you're definitely going to be our backup.
Look, but
Mac Jones, Kyle Shanahan could tell Mac Jones, like, hey man, we got 2 guys signed already, but you want to come compete for a spot? We've played 3 quarterbacks in the season plenty of times. Come hang.
I don't even forget the football aspect of it. Like, I don't disagree with you, right? Mac Jones a Pro Bowler. Like, let's keep it a stack. Just leaning on that.
I'll just spit my water all over my computer.
Mac Jones did the gritty in a Pro Bowl, so
sure. All right.
Yeah, we know he can play. That. We know he can play. No, no. The thing that I can't handle with that is all of the 2021 draft revisionist history that would then come up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, actually, the people who reported it was Mac Jones weren't wrong. They were just early. Like that's the kind of, oh God, we'd get a Schefter tweet about how this is what the 49ers have wanted all along. And oh God, I just don't need to relitigate any of that. Oh, Mike Silver would have an expose ready to go. Man,
I mean, look,
please don't speak that into existence.
we all know Mike Silver was not the only one who was told by people inside the building that Mac Jones was going to be the pick.
No doubt. No doubt.
I'm raising
No
my
doubt.
hand on this one.
Right. Yeah. I bet substantial sums that Mac Jones is going to be the Niners quarterback, but it's fine. Thanks. So, yeah, I'm no. It's
Well,
too, it feels like a layup. Like it's way too easy. Mac Jones or Kenny Pickett is going to wear a 49ers uniform next year.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Or depending on what happens in the playoffs, Kirk Cousins.
Stop.
All right. So I do think what week 18 does give us an opportunity to do is, and like, I don't, look, the 49ers very clearly have one of the best rosters, if not the best roster in the NFL.
Sure.
But we can look at like Danny Gray and Ty Davis Price and come to a pretty firm conclusion that those picks just didn't work out right.
Not ready to give up on Danny Gray just yet.
No?
I don't. No, you're right. It's not. If you're, this is not my thing. This is a thing I heard once, and it's a thing that I follow. Give it 3 years is typically my timeline of, okay, you have 3 years in the league. What have you done? Are you trending the right way? What does it look like? When you're 2 years in and you've gone from the active roster to the practice squad, and then you've been on IR all year but healthy because the team doesn't want to clear a roster spot for you, that's trending the wrong direction at the end of year 2.
Yeah, when Chris
I don't feel great about it.
Chris Conley and Willie Snead are getting elevated above you. Here's the thing with that. Like, Kyle Shanahan's pretty practical about this stuff. I know a lot of people like to make more of it than is really there. And maybe us included in past years to a certain extent, or at least myself. I don't want to speak for you. But for Danny Gray, for him to make an impact on the team this year, it was never going to be as a receiver, right? Like, Danny Gray was never going to be the guy who, was going to leapfrog Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel for snaps. So that was never going to be the case. You're still muted, by the way. But for Danny Gray to get on the field, it was going to have to be on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically going to have to be on special teams and as a run blocker. Like, that's just it, right?
Right.
And that's what Ronnie Bell probably deserves a little bit of credit for. We don't know necessarily that Ronnie Bell is like that much better of a receiver than Danny Gray, but what Ronnie Bell did was, play special teams. We can obviously have the conversation about how not good of a returner he's been, but at least he's able to contribute on special teams.
Right.
Like,
got some dog in him.
That was his ticket to making an impact on the roster, or at least just making the roster overall.
Right. He was really good in the preseason too.
Because Danny Gray, and look, like, what I heard about Danny Gray coming out, he wasn't a great practice player in college. And following up, it doesn't seem like that's changed all that much in the pros, right? And so for Danny Gray to get playing time, it's never going to be, hey, you're a 3rd round pick, so we're just going to guarantee you playing time. There are countless examples of 49ers players from this regime that haven't worked out because guys who were drafted later than them or who went undrafted have done more in practice and been more productive and understood what they needed to do to get on the field than some of these guys who might have felt more entitled because they were, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks, right? Or there were injuries or whatever. But so I think that's kind of where we're at with Danny Gray. Like, it happened with Jalen Hurd and Juwan Jennings. It happened with Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon. It happened with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, right? Like, it's happened, basically every year. It feels like an undrafted or lower, like day 3 guy has supplanted somebody who the team made a more significant investment in,
Right.
because those guys just do what it takes to get on the field. And in a lot of cases, that's, be really good at run blocking and be really good on special teams. And we haven't gotten that from Danny Gray yet, apparently.
Right.
And so, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the 49ers cut bait in the offseason, like at this point.
I honestly, maybe they give him another camp, because Ty Davis Price had a good camp. Yeah. And he's just not. Ty Davis Price's problem is he doesn't play special teams, and he can't carve out a role on special teams.
And that's what Jordan Mason did.
Right. So I think they give Ty Davis Price another crack, but like I'd be a small bit surprised if Danny Gray just got cut outright in the offseason without getting another camp. But it wouldn't like floor me by any means.
Yeah, I mean, I think they don't have anything to lose by bringing him back, right? Like maybe the way the season went, the first 2 years of his career, that lights a fire under him. He's still got a unique skill set relative to the other guys in that receiving room. Like he's probably flat out the fastest receiver that they have on the roster.
Yes.
But it's obviously playing for Kyle Shanahan. It's more than just being a speed guy. Right? Like Chris Connolly's a fast guy known for his athleticism and all of that. But like Chris Connolly gets elevated to the active roster because he run blocks and plays special teams. Like you just have to do those things if you're not a starter for Kyle Shanahan. And the reason why, I mean, you can quibble with like, oh, Kyle Shanahan's not developing these dudes. It's like, man, they're not trying to develop they're trying to win Super Bowls. Like what you're going to bench Deebo Samuel so you can give Danny Gray some burns, so you can quote unquote develop him.
Dude, but here's the thing, and I think it was Robert Mays and Nate Tice who made this point. Kyle Shanahan develops the shit out of people.
Yeah.
Like there are so many players who have gotten developed under Kyle Shanahan that we know whatever he does works.
Yeah.
George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I know they traded up for Brandon Ayuk, but still he has gotten better.
Fifth or sixth?
He has gotten better. Deebo Samuel was a second round pick. Elijah Mitchell, 6th round pick, and a good player who just can't stay healthy. That's not his fault. Matt Breida, Jeff Wilson Jr., like all these players that have been taken and developed. Jawan Jennings, 7th round pick, who was on the practice squad and hurt most of his first year. Like these are players who come in and they find roles and they are developed and they find ways to be successful on the team. I don't think Danny Gray not getting snaps. I don't know how this became a Danny Gray conversation, but I don't know how Danny Gray not being able to crack the active roster is some indictment on Kyle Shanahan's ability to develop a player.
Right.
Like to me at some point, like it's on the player.
Yeah, 100% agree. And people have listened to this podcast long. And by the way, I brought up the Danny Gray thing because this is week 18 and he's not going to get elevated. And I frankly don't know what else there is to talk about this game. But that aside,
I have some players to watch.
Okay, before we get to that,
I do, like kind of earnestly.
Okay, but not Ernest Jones.
Well, no, obviously not. Come on,
okay,
are you crazy?
Like there was going into 2021, I believe it was. I think you and I were correctly critical of just the team's overall handling of the cornerback situation.
Correct.
And them not willing to play Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore and instead going with Dre Kirkpatrick and what's his name? Former Carolina Panther, big horse guy.
Oh, Josh Norman.
Josh Norman, right? Thank you.
When you said big horse guy, I went Nikola Jokic. Was my first.
No, he never played corner for the Niners. Josh Norman. I think
speaking of Dubs kicking the shit out of the Nuggets right now. Holy cow! Okay,
I know.
Sorry, keep going.
I know. Big third quarter there for
classic third quarter Dubs.
Yeah,
keep going. I keep getting something.
But I think the issue with that was cornerback was a very clear position of need, and you drafted those guys. So like at some point you have to just throw them in the fire, because developing them makes a lot more sense than playing these veterans who are not going to be on your team beyond the season.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is a far different scenario than, oh, Danny Gray's not getting the reps he needs. It's like, no, you're loaded at receiver.
Right.
Like
Very
you are
different.
loaded at receiver, and you're trying to win a championship right now. In 2021, it was like, you don't have any corners and you drafted these guys. Like, go like play them. You have to play them, because it's not like Drake or Patrick and Josh Norman are playing awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it can't be worse. So at least let these dudes who are probably going to struggle, because Kyle Shanahan watched them in practice. Like, we do have to trust Kyle Shanahan when it comes to that stuff. Like, if these dudes are bad in practice, Kyle Shanahan's not going to just throw them out there. So there's an element of that. Like, I'm willing to acknowledge. But that's it. Like, that was a very different situation with those cornerbacks and guys like Ty Davis-Price or Danny Gray, right?
Yeah.
Because, you have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk.
Right. Can I give you some players to watch?
I would love nothing more, man.
On Sunday. And then we can get to our 3 keys to the game.
Line of scrimmage, all 3 phases.
Win the turnover battle.
Nice. Yeah.
That's a big one every week. All right. So I genuinely, this is okay. No, AJ Crew 75 in our YouTube chat says, "Am I late?" Nah, dude, you're just on time. So I say this not in, these are opportunities for like, oh man, they could have a huge game and start a playoff game. It's not like that. This is just, these are some players who are going to be on the field that may or may not do something of consequence for their more future than anything in the immediate. Okay. Sounds like Ray McLoud will be activated. I'd be a little bit surprised if he's not. He's been a full participant in practice the last 2 days after having his 21-day practice window open on Wednesday. I think that Ray McLeod is going to get the return opportunities, and I think he's going to get in quite a bit at receiver. That'll be good for him just to get a game under his belt before playing in the playoffs. Because he's been out for the last, I think, 4 weeks.
Definitely could use, like, especially punt returning. You just wanted like just fair catch everything, right? Just like catch it.
Have I ever told you my theory on punt returning? Or what I would do if I was a coach?
Is it have the punt returner call fair catch every time?
Yeah, how'd you
know? Because I'm kind of at that point.
No, I am beyond that. Send 11. You're getting the ball. Just go try and block it every time.
I don't hate it.
Like, worst case there, oh no, they pinned you deep. At least you get the ball back. Best case, you block it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like turnover risk just to like save yourself 5 yards.
Sure, and you're fair catching, and even then you could still muff it. Like, there's just a lot that could go wrong. I think you just send 11. That's what I would do. I'm sure a special teams coach would tell me I'm an idiot for that, and guilty as charged. But that's what I would do. It works.
I don't hate the idea.
Thanks.
Especially when Ronnie Gray can't really catch anything.
Ronnie Gray?
Damn. Sorry.
Damn.
Ronnie
I'm not sure. Hey, is that more Ronnie Bell shade or Danny Gray shade?
Yes.
All right. Real quick, someone in the YouTube chat, Drool, said Rams would either play the Lions or Cowboys depending on Sunday. Yeah. So if the Rams win, they will play whoever the number 3 seed is. If the Rams lose, they will play whoever the number 2 seed is.
Yeah, so the Lions and Cowboys have the same record.
Right. If the Cowboys win, if the Cowboys beat Washington, which I think they will, Cowboys will be the 2 seed, Lions will be the 3 seed. Rams win, they'll play the Lions. Rams lose, Packers win, Rams would play the Cowboys.
Yeah, and Detroit can't be any lower than the 3 seed.
Correct. Cowboys lose, Lions lose, Eagles win, Rams win. Rams play Eagles.
Oh, yeah, Philly's not out of the division race.
No. All right. I don't think there's anywhere they're losing to the Giants. All right. I think Jordan Mason is going to get a ton of burn in this game
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be an opportunity for him to do whatever he needs to do to see the field more often. I don't know if it's that. Maybe it's just that they think that Elijah Mitchell is better and he has a longer track record of being better. And then Christian McCaffrey's on the field as much as he is, so there's just no room for Jordan Mason. Or if it's what he does as a receiver, or maybe he just lines up in the wrong spot or misses blocking assignments or whatever it is. He should have plenty of opportunities to clean a lot of those issues up. And like I said, this is less about what he can do in a playoff game and more about what his role looks like moving forward.
Yeah, I think if you go back and watch that Cleveland game that the Niners lost, there were some plays that it looked like they were setting up screens and there just wasn't anyone there to catch said screen.
Yeah.
And then you see Jordan Mason on the other side of the field, like blocking somebody. I think there were some assignment issues, some MAs as they call it, missed assignments.
Yeah.
Which might have contributed to, and Elijah Mitchell's good, obviously, but some of that stuff might have contributed to Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think Elijah Mitchell's probably going to play a little bit. I don't know how much, but he looked really good against Washington. And if he goes out and looks really good again against the Rams, and I know Ernest Jones isn't playing, we've already talked about that. But
it's a really good bit.
Yeah, it's so good. I can't wait to tell Nick about it. If Elijah Mitchell goes out and runs really well, let's say he just lights it up in the first quarter, I bet they pull him. But if he is effective again, that just gives the Niners another wrinkle for their offense going into the postseason.
Well, and that's what they had last.
Real quick, and I think in the postseason, I think this is leading into what you're saying. I think in the postseason, it means you'll see more 2 running back stuff with Mitchell and McCaffrey on the field together. Yeah,
and the 49ers in a lot of games last year used Elijah Mitchell as like a closer.
Yeah.
So that's it never hurts to have extra clubs in your bag.
Right.
As the golfers out there would know. We're only limited to 14, obviously, but man, if you could get a 15th, maybe a little 62 degree, get a little saucy out of the bunker, it'd be nice to have, but you're stuck with that 58. Sorry.
Are you done?
Yeah.
We good?
Okay. Just another bounce option. Maybe want some with more bounce with the wet grass in the winter.
Elijah Mitchell, more like Elijah pitching wedge. Okay. I think Sam Womack is going to get some burn. And this is an opportunity for Sam Womack to actually put himself in the conversation to play cornerback for the 49ers next season.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And maybe it's just going to be Ambry Thomas and Deommodore Lenoir and Trevarius Ward. But right now, Samuel Womack's in kind of this weird space where he's not really a reserve. And because of the way their secondary is set up, he's like second guy off the bench. But there's always going to be competition there. They're always going to need competition there. And if Samuel Womack goes out and plays really, really well, I think it puts him on a good track to be competitive for a starting job next year.
Yeah, that one surprised me. We've seen a lot of players, come in after really good off seasons and win jobs that heretofore we might not have thought they were going to win.
Good word.
Thank you. So yeah, that certainly seems possible. I think Sam Womack is kind of like, he's got some development to do still, and he's obviously a young, relatively inexperienced player, but what he represents to me is sort of the perfect like fourth corner, because he can play in the slot and outside.
Mm-hmm.
And like be a gunner on special teams. That's like exactly what you want from your fourth cornerback. Somebody who can play both spots, both inside and outside.
And this is just kind of what, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think he's in position to be like, potentially someone who can stick around just because he's like the perfect margin type player for your roster.
Yeah, and he plays special teams. He's a good special teams guy. This is just kind of what he did in college. He wanted to play basketball, so he wasn't a highly recruited football player. He goes to Toledo, winds up lighting it up, earns a scholarship, and is their best corner for his last 2 or 3 years there.
Team captain.
And I think led the led the nation in pass breakups, or was up there in the nation in pass breakups. He's really, really effective. So he's used to kind of getting it out the mud, as the youths say. I also think Isaiah Oliver, this could be a big spot for him, particularly for the postseason. I think Isaiah Oliver is going to play quite a bit, and if he can be good and instill some confidence for Steve Wilkes, in the playoffs is where you empty your bag. You throw any wrinkle you can at a team. You do anything a little bit different. And we talked last episode about the bye week and how good the 49ers are at making adjustments, self-scouting, and changing things and tweaking things at the bye. If there's a wrinkle to be made in the 49ers secondary, it is Isaiah Oliver. And whether that's him lining up maybe at safety, that's something Kyle Shanahan said might happen if their safety injury issues continue. But maybe it's lining him up.
Oh, sorry. He did a couple weeks ago, I think, when Tayshaun Gibson got hurt.
So, that's right. Yeah, against Philly?
I think
it doesn't matter. Anyways, so maybe it's that. Maybe it's putting him in the nickel in certain matchups where they feel really good about it. I don't know. If Oliver goes out and plays really well, though, I think we talked clubs and bags. This gives Steve Wilkes another club in his bag to with modern offenses, you have to mix things up. You have to be able to throw wrinkles. You have to be able to change up the looks. And Isaiah Oliver is a much different look than Deommodore Lenoir.
Maybe like a 2-iron you could play into the wind. No, I'm just kidding. You remember in 2019 when the Niners went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, they started doing some of that stuff towards the end of the season, and that version of it was going 3 safety sets with Tarvarius Moore on the field, right. And Jimmy Ward in the Super Bowl was covering Travis Kelce, like man-to-man, one-on-one. Because, back then, Robert Saleh thought Jimmy Ward was one of the best man-to-man players in the league, or so he said. And he kind of put his money where his mouth is when it's like, this is the biggest game of the year. I'm going to have Jimmy Ward cover Travis Kelce.
And Tarvarius Moore had an interception in that game.
He did. And so, I don't know if there's much of a comparison to make between Isaiah Oliver and Tarvarius Moore, other than the sense of, to your point, if the 49ers were going to do some unique things and throw some new looks out there against a playoff opponent, maybe it's something like using Isaiah Oliver as a third safety on 3rd and 8 and doing some unscouted stuff that, is a wrinkle other teams haven't seen.
Yeah. The last thing here is just the non-Bosa defensive ends. Like, can anyone show up and play well and, again, instill confidence that the Niners' defensive end depth going into the postseason is good enough?
Forgive me. What's
Robert Beal is the name you're looking for. Oh, sorry.
What's up with Drake Jackson?
He is on IR.
Okay, that's right.
With a knee? I think it's a knee.
It's been long enough that I've forgotten about where he's at. So he's not going to play, obviously.
Correct.
Okay.
Although I think probably has a better chance of being activated than Danny Gray.
Yikes.
Assuming I'm assuming he's on IR and could return, but isn't. But I don't know.
I haven't heard anything. I don't think his practice window's open. I think it might be.
It's definitely not open.
Okay, so if it's not open, he's definitely not playing.
Correct.
Yeah, Bob Beal might be a nice game for Bob Beal.
Yeah, Robert Beal, Cleveland Ferrell, whoever, pick your poison. With those two.
The murderer's row. Yeah, I mean, Randy Gregory.
Oh, Randy Greggs, of course.
Hey, maybe Sebastian Joseph Day gets, we get a good look at him and what it looks like, firing off the ball instead of 2-gapping.
I have a question. This is a legitimate question. Like, I actually mean this.
Okay.
No, like it's going to sound like a bit, I promise, but I mean it. I mean it very sincerely. If you're Kyle Shanahan and you get the ball or you have the ball at the Rams.
Oh, I know where you're going here.
28.
Yep.
Are you just kind of not kneeling on it, but just going halfback dive into the line 3 times and then letting Jake Moody kick a 40, what did I say, the 28? So a 45, 46-yard field goal?
Yeah, I am.
And like I said, I don't mean that. I know we've had our bits about Jake Moody, but genuinely, Jake Moody's been fine this year. Outside of week 6 and 7, where he missed I think 3 kicks in those 2 weeks, but other than that, he's been really good. He's 58 for 58 on extra points. Those field goals I just mentioned in those 2 games are the only ones he's missed this year. 2 of them were from outside of 40 yards. 1 of them was from outside of 50 yards. It's not so much that you want to make sure that, hey, you can trust this kicker in a big spot outside of 40 yards, but B, he's only kicked 24 field goals this year. 24 attempts as a rookie.
It's insane.
It is so few field goals. So like I genuinely, you talk about working on stuff and treating this like a preseason game, like that's something you got to work on. You got to rep that, because in the playoffs you're going to need to kick some field goals.
Yeah, I agree. He's kicked 4 in the last 6 games. 5 games.
Man.
4 field goals in the last 5 games. So yeah, and I think the weather, I haven't checked, but there might be some weather in the area on Sunday. There might be some conditions. Some condities, as some people would call them.
Yeah.
And Levi's is, the wind can be tough. Usually comes in from the north side of the stadium and blows south. And it can shout out to Tim. It can swirl a little bit because there are no like retaining walls. Like wind will literally come from outside the stadium, blow through the concourse and onto the field. So it is a unique, like I talked to Robbie Gold about it a lot. The Niners, Levi's Stadium is pretty unique for kickers given the wind patterns there. For an outdoor stadium. It's generally pretty windy and it's generally coming from the same direction, but it can swirl a little bit. And it would definitely help Jake Moody just get some kicks in.
Yeah.
Because
that's going to be interesting. That's going to be super interesting to see how Shanahan handles that.
I mean, if it's 3rd and 6 in Rams territory, I'm calling a running play, we need our guy to just get some reps. Yeah. And you should feel confident to the point where like I don't think Kyle Shanahan would be like, nah, I don't want to give him that, because if he misses it, then his confidence is shot going to the playoffs.
You can't you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. You just got to operate like, no, I have confidence in my kicker. We're going to throw him out there. We're going to get him some reps.
Well, and
he hasn't
you need
had
to know,
any.
and forget his confidence. Like if you're Kyle Shanahan and you roll Jake Moody out there twice against the Rams and he shanks both of them from 43 and 48, like now you're going to operate differently in the playoffs.
Now you're hitting the waiver wire. If he shanks kicks,
I don't necessarily mean shanks, but if he misses 2, like now you're going to operate differently going into the postseason. Like that's just you're going to call plays differently.
If he does the Chase McLaughlin and kick it into the Niners entryway tunnel in the south end zone and an overtime field goal.
If this game goes to overtime, I'm getting on this podcast and calling for everybody involved to be fired. Like, let them score.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That might be a scenario where Mike Florio would be correct in the players wanting a...
Yeah. Do you want to do prize picks? And then get out of here?
Oh, boy, do I. It is
here's the thing.
Season, baby. Let's go.
Season. So here's the deal with where we're at on prize picks right now. So the 49ers and Rams, because of the state of their game, they have no available entries on prize picks this week.
Which is probably smart.
If you don't know, totally. If you don't know what prize picks is, it's daily fantasy sports. It's the easiest DFS I've ever done, and it has been my favorite part of football this year. And frankly, basketball, because they have basketball, they have hockey. I'm not a big puck guy, but they do have hockey if you're into that. College football, college basketball, soccer, PGA, Australian basketball, tennis, you name it, Prize Picks has got it. So prizepicks.com/candlestick, promo code candlestick for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/candlestick, promo code candlestick for a first deposit match up to $100 Please join us. You'll have so much fun. And the thing I like about Prize Picks, you don't play against somebody. You're not playing against like sharp guys or bots or AI or anything crazy like that. It's just you. You're making your entries, 2 to 6 players, more or less on their stat projections, and you let it rock. So no Niners, no Rams this week. So we had to build a different type of entry, Chris. All non-Niners and Rams games. I think I picked all different games here. Yeah, I have like 6 different games.
I got 2
I'm picking
games
from. Okay.
All right. 2 games here.
You want to go first? You go first.
Yeah, let me just double check. I have the opponent correct here.
Oh boy.
We have, I think, who's Houston? Oh, Houston's playing Saturday. That's why I couldn't find it. Yeah,
and they got Indy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. CJ Stroud. These are all demon picks, so I'm just gonna. It's the same number. All demon picks.
Demon picks are selections where you have to pick more. You cannot pick less, and the pay multipliers can go up to like 100 times.
Yeah. So hypothetically,
they're bigger numbers, but the payout is much higher.
So I'm doing 3 demon picks, 3 quarterbacks. The number is more than 299.5 yards on all 3. Hypothetically, if you were to put in a $20 entry, you could win $630 if it hits. If this hits, your boy is in the green for the season. And listeners to this podcast know it hasn't been great for me taking the big swings and going for the power plays, but we're doing the ultimate power play to end this thing, to cap it off. We are going more than 299.5 for CJ Stroud, Houston's quarterback, against the Indianapolis Colts. We're going more than 299.5 yards for Josh Allen in a pivotal AFC East game that basically determines the division championship. And then more than 299.5 yards for Tua Tagovailoa of the Dolphins in the same game. We're banking on a shootout. We're banking on lots of points, but the points are not what matters. Obviously, it's the yardage here. 299.5, more than all demon picks. Pays if that entry power play, you put in 20 and you got a chance to win 630. Thank me later. It's demon season, baby. We're rocking.
I have no demon picks. I'm wimping out. Nope, check that. I have 1, and I feel great about it. But here are my entries for this week. I have Jared Goff less than 225.5 passing yards against Minnesota. And I am banking on the Cowboys demolishing Washington so badly that the Lions pull their dudes like at halftime.
Okay.
So that's what I think is happening there. I think Jared Goff's only going to get a half, and I don't think he's going to go for more than 225.5 passing yards, so I'm picking less than there. I think Josh Allen is going to light it up against Miami. I'm going more than 245.5 passing yards. A thing I'm predicting is that Buffalo beats Miami. Josh Allen has a huge game, and there's going to be this, is Josh Allen actually the MVP? Conversation, and Lamar Jackson is going to win it running away. That's how I think that's going to go. Jaden Reed, Green Bay wide receiver. I'm going more than 50.5 receiving yards for Jaden Reed.
Oh, it is too soon. It is too soon. Jaden Reed is the reason why I'm not a fantasy football champion this year.
And that's the reason why I'm picking him to go more than 50.5. Like, dude, I'm not, like, you took an L on it. I'm not doing the same. So I'm going to... Jaden Reed? That's what you said the other night. 50.5 receiving yards for him. I'm going to go more than that against Chicago. New Orleans kicker Blake Groupe? Blake G. I'm going more than 1.5 field goals made because, brother, if you're giving me the kicker on Derek Carr's team, I'm going to pick them to stall out in the red zone and put up a couple of FGs. So give me Blake Group A, not Blake Group B, Blake Group A. More than 1.5 field goals made. And Deontay Johnson for Pittsburgh against Baltimore. Pittsburgh is still playing for something. I think Mason Rudolph is playing for a potential job. I think he's going to target Deontay Johnson early and often. I think Deontay Johnson cruises to more than 37.5 receiving yards. And then Nico Collins You had CJ Stroud more than 299.5 passing yards, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to ride that, but via Nico Collins, more than 99.5 receiving yards. Indianapolis defense is terrible. Nico Collins is having a really good year. Houston needs to win that game. They win. They are the AFC South champions. Or no, they win and Jacksonville loses. I believe Houston is the AFC South champion. So they're going to be trying to win. They're still fighting for a playoff spot. I know Nico Collins has a huge game. I think CJ Stroud has a huge game. So that is what I'm riding. And you said a $20 entry on that with those 6 wins you $680 thanks to my Nico Collins demon payout.
That's a power play?
Flex play? No, it's 6. It's 6. It's all flex play.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you're unfamiliar with the flex plays with Prize Picks, and this is my cat loves Prize Picks. He's jumping on the table right now. The flex play, so you can get up to 2 incorrect in your entry, and you still get a little bit back, even if it's not the maximum amount that you would get with 6. You still get a little bit back, and that's one of my favorite things about Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com/candlestick, promo code candlestick for a first deposit match up to $100. We're having a blast with this. We hope you join us. Thank you to our friends at Prize Picks. That's Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Hell yeah. This is the week, brother.
How you and I have somehow churned out an almost hour-long podcast previewing this Week 18 game might be some of our best work. Not saying the content was the best, but just in terms of accomplishments, podcasting for an hour ahead of this Niners-Rams game where nobody's playing, kudos to us, man.
I hope we made it sound compelling. Yeah, I hope that there are people who get on their podcast apps tomorrow and look and go, because with the ads, it's going to be well over an hour, and go like an hour and 10 minutes on this. I hope somebody does that.
And then they go, oh, those guys must have been cooking. And then they listen like
oh boy.
A lot of Danny Gray talk.
Like, did they just say they should kick field goals on purpose? All right. Hell
Appreciate
yeah! Shout
everybody.
out Kyron, my man.
Appreciate everybody in the YouTube chat. AJ Cruz 75. You guys made chicken salad out of chicken nuggets. I don't know if that's a good thing. I like chicken.
That sounds delicious.
I'm not a chicken salad guy, but
I'm not either. But I'm envisioning a salad with chicken nuggets on top, and that sounds great.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the hand clapping emoji is means it was a nice thing to say. So shout out to you.
I hope the homies at HelloFresh can hook it up with a salad with chicken nuggets on top. That'd be great. God, I love HelloFresh. That's not even because they're a sponsor. I just rock with HelloFresh. Anyways.
Sure. All right, let's get out of here. We appreciate everyone hanging with us if you've lasted this long.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you about what's certain to be a barn burner on Sunday.
Hey, Sundays, barring a catastrophe, Sunday's post-game pod will not be an hour.
We'll see. Anyway, appreciate everybody. Check out our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, I should say, we got
Shout
links
out to David
to the
Sunquist.
podcast.
This guy gets it.
We got podcast links down in the description. Check those out. If you're listening on the podcast, check out our YouTube channel. And we appreciate everyone supporting the show. We've been going 4 years. It's our 4th season podcasting together.
Yeah, late December of 2018.
Yeah.
Wild. Oh my God.
Right before the Niners made their
Bro, that's 5 years. December of 2018. That's 5 years ago. Hey, look at us.
That's wild.
Who would have thought?
That's wild.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.